And we begin.
Yeah.
Two dance. Idris and Jacob.
2021 feels like a long time ago.
Yeah. Was this gig fully attended?
Fully attended. Yeah. This was the very last one of the first season. So by then, there's a little bit of noise, a little bit of hype. Also, Eska played that one, and Eska is a big name. Fill up the place, you know. Yeah, in many ways, it's a bit of a turning point gig this one, because from then on, we've never had a problem with attendance.
Okay.
Before then, it was always, let's see, seasonal, da-da-da. After this one, we've always been on that upward thing.
Right.
So yeah, I hadn't thought about that until now, but this was one of those. These two never ever played together. This is definitely the first time they ever played together, first time they've ever met.
You serious?
Yeah. I'll talk about it. Yeah, it's quite kind of DJ friendly as well, you know.
I'm quite surprised. Well, I shouldn't even say that. We move in the circles that we connect with all the musicians.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that the musicians connect themselves.
Well,
Unless you have something like this.
I'm going to talk about that
Yeah.
tonight. This and the crossfade is ready to. If I press play on this one, are we cue to? Is it cue to come out?
When we're done, I'm going to put it back to full.
Okay.
Touch online. Felt that.
Yeah. Woo. I think I know who that is.
To the very last drop. To the very last drop. This is how we begin. Welcome. Another month. We're in the month of March. The second episode of Mr and Mrs Wedderburn Presents on the fantastic BMC radio. Mrs Wedderburn, any words for you, really?
Well, good evening. Thank you for joining us. And it's a special evening.
Very.
Just listening to that first track, very, very special. And I know you're going to introduce our guest.
Can I just say before we even bring in the Don himself, you know what? Listening to what we just heard and to the two musicians who you'll talk about play.
Yeah.
We are actually in a very privileged place where we can see up close and personal and know musicians of this caliber. I'll just put that out there right now. But right now, let us get into it. We have 2 hours And as we say in Jamaica, we don't have time to waste. We don't have no time to waste. And the gentleman standing between us is no stranger. He's a good friend, colleague, all-around creative, done photographer, done curator, done promoter. Just an all-around done, and it's a pleasure to have him again, bringing some blessings musically and some good news and tidings. The man is George Nelson, and I'm going to hand the mic over to him to say his salutations and pleasantries and talk about this music we just heard. Respect, madam.
Nice, man. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs Wedderburn. I feel like I'm on an EPMD album. You know how every EPMD track, they introduce each other by, what's up, Eric Salmon? What's up, Paris Smith? Me and my brother used to do that. What's up, Don Nelson? What's up, George Nelson? Yeah, no, good. It's good to hear that again. I hadn't listened to that since more or less the year that it was recorded, like within a year of it being recorded. So that's from 2021, the very last one of season 1. That set means a lot. That night means a lot. That particular night, I was just saying to you, Gordon, that night represents some kind of turning point, tipping point in the Moment's Notice trajectory, purely on a practical level, which is hugely important if you're ever going to get these nights to sustain. That was the first one that we packed out, and it sort of remained packed out since. But weirdly, it's also one of the best examples of what Moment's Notice has always felt like from the beginning, and I'll explain to you what that means. I always say that every duo is really a trio. Every trio is really a quartet, and every quintet, because we do the combo at the end, is a sextet. If you listen closely after like a minute there, you can hear the train going.
Yes.
And you hear how
Yes.
Jake changes his drum pattern
Yes.
in response to that train. So Jake isn't just improvising along with Idris Rahman, that's Jake Long and Maisha there, but he's also having to bear in mind that every 8.5 minutes there's a train passing above, and you can pretend it's not there, or you can just welcome it to the party too. And I like that aspect of the improv. It demonstrates it well.
Yeah, man.
You also hear a couple of moments where certain members of the audience just like, sorry if I have to swear here, because my vocabulary is kind of limited, kind of lose their shit. Just a couple of little moments there where you hear, ow,
Yes.
but not at the obvious moment. It isn't like a drum fill.
Yes.
It isn't a particular lick. It tells you something about how discerning that audience is.
Yes.
It's a combination of musicians. There are quite a lot of musicians in that audience. General consumers and connoisseurs of the different art forms around London here, people who support the art scene, but very empathetic listeners, true listeners. I've never ever had to reprimand anybody for not respecting what's going on the stage in any given second.
That's a rare thing.
It's a very rare, it's a
thing
very,
in
very
London.
rare thing. So yeah, so sorry to kind of jump right into the kind of meat of it without even giving the exposition of what Moment's Notice
There
is
you
and all
go.
of that.
We need to go back there.
But I felt that was about right for that set. Yeah.
It's a vibe. I mean, these are musicians that we know and love, and again, as I say, we're privileged, and it must have been a very privileged moment to be showcasing them and them just going into their improv, just going into the music. I wish I was there, but tell the people about Moment's Notice, because and this is a global stage we're looking at. So
For sure.
Man,
So-
all of China supposed to.
Yeah, they're supposed to
Wow,
piece it
wow.
all together by the end of this. All right, let me try for them, yeah? I'll try for them. All right, so Moment's Notice is this, yeah? First thing, I put it on the table, and this is really important to understand maybe why Moment's Notice works. I'm not a practitioner. I'm not a musician. And that's important because what I do here is actual curation, and that's not to throw shade over other curators, but my definition of curation probably comes more from visual art,
Yeah.
which involves bringing lots of disparate pieces and making them a cohesive whole.
Yes.
Whereas often when I go to events and I see what is supposed to be curation, it's just individual bands one after the other with not that much thought gone into which one might precede the other.
Yes.
I literally invite 5 musicians who may or may not have any prior connection. They have no musical history, and put together a duo band, a trio band, and then they combine at the end. So it's all free improv and bottom up improvisation in front of a live audience. None of this stuff is finessed prior to the night. Musicians, more often than not, will never have met prior to the night. None of this is touched upon in soundcheck. It literally happens in real time creation of art in front of a live audience. I had the foresight to multi-track audio every single one of these recordings from the more or less from the beginning. We had a glitch on the very first one, but since then they've all been in, and that's proven to be one of the smarter moves in my dumb life. Like that's a smart move, because it's put me in a position now where launching a record label, which I'm going to go and talk about, doesn't mean starting from nothing. I have a lot of product, so to speak, with the goodwill of the musicians to release this music.
Nice.
And so, bit at a time, in the next couple of years, it's not going to be left to the fortunate 80 or 100 who are in the room to recollect the sounds and feelings of that night. This music is going to be available to people in China, yeah? Right.
I think we should go into some more music before we touch a little bit more about the intricacies of Moment's Notice, because there's still a question or two to ask.
Yeah.
But I think
I have a couple of records, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I'm choosing, yeah? So yeah, I've decided to use this space because Gordon's very generous. You're both incredibly generous in saying you've got, carte blanche, yeah? You do as you want with the slot. And I guess there's a part of me that wanted to give a bit of my backstory through records and might explain why I arrive at the lineups I arrive at. Some people say, what's the formula? Like, what makes you think that one sounds good with that one? Or why do you even have an appetite to curate this kind of event? And I think
interestingly, I've never thought about it. Never.
Okay.
I just look at the lineups and just say, pardon my French, this guy is mad.
Okay. Well, maybe again, listening to some of the records here might give a little bit of insight into why I would go down that path. So I've chosen a couple of things here that I'm just going to talk about quickly. The very first one is a Celestino tune. So I grew up the first maybe 8 years of my life, even though I'm born in Glasgow, the first eight kind of the mobile years of my life are in Nigeria and the north in Kaduna.
Respect.
And my parents listened to a lot of music, especially on long car journeys. And I always remember one time listening to something that sounded a little bit high life, but it seemed to be influenced by so many other of the less heard West African genres. And I was asking quite a few questions about, I was brought up to think in terms of compartmentalized genres, right? In film, in books, in music. What is this? And I always remember no one could answer it that accurately. And that's what interested me a lot about the music, that nobody could pigeonhole exactly what it was. And I think that is the very first kind of simmerings of this fascination with genreless music, which I think is deep down why I have an appetite for this kind of cross-fertilization of musicians from not just from the London jazz scene, but from the London creative music scene, including klezmer, avant-garde, classical, musicians who come at it entirely from a groove perspective, those who are fiercely atonal. I like to mix that up, and I think this first record will give you some insight as to why. Then, another record I want to play is a Dr. John tune from Babylon called Glowin'. Glowin', I think, was the first time in my kind of teenage/adult life that I heard something that gave me a little jolt in terms of it didn't have the usual cues as to, again, what it is that I'm listening to or meant to be listening to. my understanding of Dr. John was New Orleans funk, voodoo, gumbo, all of these things based on a couple of albums I heard. And suddenly there was this with this sort of baritone line at the beginning and very angular approach he takes to the piece. And I just thought, whatever this is, I want more of this in my life. So these two tunes, we go back to back, yeah?
It's interesting. Before we kick them off, we had that very same conversation last week about genres and compartmentalizing music. So we're doing another show.
Okay.
So it's very interesting that was picked up on, you know?
Okay.
So we have the same, well, we would have had the similar things. We're creatives, but Gillian is ready to press the button. So
do it, Gillian. Nice.
Take a picture of the record and just come there.
Yeah, we were talking about, well, somebody was asking because we were playing a little bit about our past and things like that. And it was interesting because Gordon's picks had nothing to do with jazz per se, or it had to do with what they call here jazz and that sort of stuff. And the question came up about genres, and we say that we don't listen to music because of a genre.
Yeah.
We just listen to music, and
Because it's good music.
if it hits us, then
Yes.
That's the
It
Quincy.
touches
doesn't
you.
matter
It
whether
touches
it's
you.
world.
That's the Quincy Jones thing. Only two types of music, good and bad.
There you go.
Is it?
This right now is a vibe.
Is it?
This is a vibe. Love it. So again, I said it in my head. I said, you know what, I'm going to learn about some music today.
Yeah.
I see that start. I love it.
Hi, Celestine. So Celestine passed away very recently. I'm going to talk in the last month. In the last month he died, yeah. He's also a major theatre actor in Nigeria. He's more famous for the acting
theatre?
than the
Oh.
music. Yeah. So
Can this record be obtained?
yeah.
Reasonably.
Well, the original of this is worth thousands. This is the first ever reissue, but the reissue is moderately rare, but you can probably get it for 40. You know what I mean? It's not £100 record.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
So, yeah.
I'll be looking for it.
Yeah. Has a bit to go, but maybe at some point as much as I'd love to play the whole thing, just thinking about time, maybe we do fade a little bit out.
Fade out.
Yeah, at some point I think. Otherwise, there's more things that relate to the story. And I also definitely want to play you to take a bit of the new record. That's a big expensive.
Just give us a minute or 20.
Yeah. I understand.
Love it, love it.
Aye. You know, like Ghanaians always argue that their high life is the real high life because they invented high life, right? But even like the staunchest kind of the most partisan Ghanaian recognizes that this is one of the best high life related pieces of music there is. Like they're not gonna argue with this. Like
They respect it.
oh, too much. Like they like yeah. No doubt.
I'm glad we waited for the vocals.
Yeah. No, I wasn't gonna fade out before that. When we flip to this this one. It's the second track on side A of this one. Second track on the side A. Something about this one. I think you can now slowly start. That's gonna come in on a bum 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 bum. Bear that in mind.
Blowing in the light of my life, singing to the stars in the sky. Blowing in the light of my life, talking in the way you hear. True love feeling is the only cause.
All right, Brett.
Yes, it is.
The schooling was
Yes,
proper.
it is.
Everybody's waiting for those backing vocals as well, man.
There ain't no need for all this greed. But when everything comes down to one, take it out, will be done. Blowing in the last of the band. Put it on a chart to the test. Blowing in the light of my life.
It's
Blowing the love light.
very rich arrangement, but a bit lo-fi at the same time. That's quite a rare combination to have something that feels, yeah.
Yes, it is. With good understanding and a lot of patience, you can make it, yes you can, beyond your wildest dreams. Cut out all this worry and complaining you gotta do. Cut out all this fighting and straining, you better know it. This little ain't no life. All the eyes of the world are on you, and they all wanna see just what you're gonna do. Don't commit suicide. Gotta keep on, keep on, keep it on, keep on, keep on, keep it 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 on. And if I had a writing up on the
Fade out
wall,
before the end, just because of time
nobody
and stuff.
seems to
And
understand
then we pick up another conversation.
at all. How can we live in
When
a
you set it
kingdom
with it,
and
alright?
never see the throne? Have all the riches and the treasures and still feel like we're alone. Got to keep on keeping on, keep on keeping on and go.
Ready?
Keep on keeping on, keep on keeping on and blow. Keep on keeping on.
As I suspected, I knew I'd be schooled and schooled properly. Phenomenal two tunes. I'm learning, man, I'm learning. Dr. John, this Babylon album is bad. This one, the previous one was just,
The Celestino.
yeah man, another level. But
Yeah. And I was saying, like, rest in peace, Celestino. You know, he passed away in the last month. I feel like the theater and film community recognized him a little bit more than the music community upon his passing, which was it's interesting to observe that, because it seemed to me like Nigerian music from the 60s and 70s was making noise here. You know, a lot of the collectors finally kind of tuned into all that, but somehow he seemed to go out quietly. So I'm going to make some noise for Celestine Ukwu, a great musician, a great actor.
Is it that a track like this was under the radar generally? Or?
Generally, yeah. I mean, these tracks they need to almost land on one of these Soundwave compilations, you know? For them to become bigger. Of course, the real collector is not depending on that, but I feel like it's only after they arrive on one of the very well distributed compilations where somebody's almost told you that this is where it's at.
Yeah.
And then it seems to gather traction. But for me, you had him for yourself, right?
I tell you, man, I'm very happy you played it here.
Yeah.
Really, again, the lessons will go, because I get two fantastic records.
Yeah.
Moment's notice, you know.
Yeah.
We've been once or twice, at least once, and again, you put it perfectly when you speak about curating and curating properly and bringing what a lot would see as disparate pieces, disparate musicians to form something very cohesive and very beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, and these two tracks that you've played takes us into the mind of George Nelson. You know, but should we go into
the next one?
Should we?
I could talk about the next one.
Yes, please.
So, someone may not hear commonality in the first two tracks if they're thinking, again, purely along genre lines. I hear something that connects the two things, and I also hear something that connects those two things with this next thing. So, punk, post-punk, but punk generally was not that interesting for me. Even when someone tried to get me into Bad Brains as a black band who played punk, I heard something, but I didn't hear enough, right? The first punk, post-punk band that got me listening and got me wanting to hear more were Rip, Rig and Panic. And how did I come about them? Well, if you know me, you can probably join all the dots already. So like Rashaan Roland Kirk is probably my favorite musician, definitely the person that a lot of my work connects to in some way. My blog is called Inflated Tears on Mars. That is a clear reference to Rashaan Roland Kirk. And there are other references if you know me well enough. You want to guess my password, then try some Rashaan Roland Kirk album. you might get lucky, right? So Rip, Rig and Panic being a great Rashaan Roland Kirk album, when I heard that this post-punk band were named after that, I thought, okay, maybe this is my into that world that I felt a little bit inaccessible for that point. Only then did I find out, so I would have been about 16, 17 at this point. Only then do I find out that Nana Cherry is in the band. Like she's the lead vocalist and one of the main writing contributors to the band. I don't think I even needed to know that to already recognize that this is my kind of thing. Once again, we've got influences from everywhere. It's a bit like when you hear what's that Prince tune? How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore, which is not on any of the albums. It's like a B-side, where you hear everything in there. You hear his gospel side, his jazz side, the pop. All of it is in that one tune. Yeah. Sunken Love from one of these. From this Rip, Rig and Panic record I'm going to play is exactly that. You hear the jazz, which you know that Nana Cherry is the adopted daughter of Don Cherry. Yes. You know that she has a lot of interesting connections with Scandinavian music, which was recently revisited in the Cherry Thing project. Yes. From a very early point in her recording career, a lot of that's coming through here, and this band will just catch you by surprise at every time. Just when you think you know what direction this tune is going in, it goes a whole other place. And that's, to me, what I love about recorded music and what I love about live music.
Let's hear it, man. Let's hear it. We're gonna get some proper schooling.
Listen to that. You were talking about the sort of drunken
Yes.
J Dilla drums. This is like many years before that. Like,
Yes.
this is Rodon. Rodon. It's cute. Saw the jazz piano in a minute. It's quite. Yeah, that's one of the. I'll put it together. Which one over there? Divine Gemini, the second one. It's a short tune as well. See? This is like, black people don't know about, they're not looking into sections of them. There's so much black influence in this tune.
Yes, we've been taken on a journey. Let's just say that.
Do you know what I'm trying to manifest as well? Because last time I went on one of the London radio shows, I brought a couple of records and said, these two people are on my wish list. And maybe if I play the record and I just go rah, 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 they're going to hear it and they're going to end up playing Women's Noise. One of them already has, Matana Roberts, who listened to, who one way or another found out about this thing and I ended up playing it, yeah? And I'm trying to manifest Nana Cherry to play Women's Noise. So every single time I appear on the radio, I'm going to drop a little bit of Nana until she succumbs.
Then if you're out there, we're manifesting also. So this is triple manifestation. We hope the vibrations reach you and you simply respond and reciprocate. But excellent music. Just in 3 tracks, the sort of, I don't want to use the word, but I'll use it, the sort of diversity.
Yeah.
We can use it musically. Just that diversity in sound is fantastic.
Yeah, and maybe for the next few, they'll feel more not typically, but they're gonna feel more entrenched in jazz, right? But for me, like, I listened to a lot of jazz growing up, but maybe the things that I was most excited to listen to repeatedly were the ones that were quite heavy on the improv.
Yes.
Especially the ones that didn't have chordal instruments. Like if you took out piano and you took out guitar and it was really stripped bare and it's like horn and drums, then chances are I'm going to revisit that again and again and again. It's mainly just to find out how the music works, because for me, I just imagine that like these chordal instruments are really fundamental to to the feel of a composition, and somehow some of the things that I reacted strongest to didn't have that. So me, with the way my head worked as a kid, would always keep revisiting those records and work out how are you compensating for not having that instrument in the setup. How is this thing working? And one record that I definitely remember revisiting in this way, like to a point where I practically transcribed it before I could even read any music. I had to sort of teach myself how to read a decent amount of music later on, but at this point I couldn't read anything. So I was just writing down written cues that gave me some indication of what the notes meant. Yeah, this is a Walt Dickerson, Richard Davis duo. It's on Steeplechase. So we're talking about Scandinavian connections of Nanatari. Of course, Steeplechase being this great Scandinavian label that a lot of American jazz musicians gravitated towards in the 70s, because they didn't necessarily want to be part of the fusiony pop thing. They still wanted to play quite challenging, fierce, improvisation heavy jazz, and there was more of a space to do that on some of the European labels. This one is particularly great. There's a double bass player that you probably heard of, Ollie Bryce, who made some contribution to London Jazz News website a few months back, where he did his favorite 10 Richard Davis tunes. I think Richard had just passed away, and it was to commemorate that. And I remember being really excited, hoping that someone would finally speak about this record. Ollie wrote great stuff. Ollie was teaching me. I was learning from Ollie. Amazing writing. But he didn't choose this. And I'm only guessing he's never heard this, because it's impossible to have heard this and not choose this. This is incredible. So it's a duo, Walt Dickerson on vibraphone, Richard Davis on double bass. And I could have picked any track from this album, but I'm going to pick the second one. So yeah, let's do it.
Before we go into it, one of the questions, you seem to be answering the questions that I want to ask even before, and it was getting into the mind of a person who would conceptualize and configure Moment's Notice as it is now. But I think you've just given us a little bit of that. So we thank you for that. You know, interesting, because when you look at it, we're all different. We're all different. We're fellow promoters.
Yeah.
You know, we never thought of putting on a Moment's Notice. Mm-hmm. You know, for us it was, let's see what the youngsters are coming with, what the young musicians are coming with, what freshness they're coming with, how they're changing the game. That's us. You are looking at how you again create that cohesion from some phenomenal musicians who might have not known each other, who have never collaborated before. So nothing is, to use your terms, finessed. And it's just the thinking, because as I said, we stand here as three promoters. If people look at us, people will know us for what we do.
But it's also this thing with me where, yesterday's a great example of this. I'm watching the Oscars with my girlfriend, and from the beginning, I'm being really critical of like everything. Like, I've seen a lot of these films, I barely liked any of them. So I'm quite particular about what I'm into, and that's not to say that I'm into a very narrow range of stuff. It could be quite a broad range of things, but quite particular within that broad range, if that makes sense. It has to be quite dense, and one of the kind of privileges of doing something like Moment's Notice is it does give you, to some extent, an opportunity to kind of put together music that would work for you. In a way, it's quite selfish curation. Like, it's a real reflection of my personal taste.
Every curation is selfish.
But I'm no doubt. But properly kind of, I will listen to a drummer in their band, and I think, wow, like, there's so much I love about that drum. I love how they clean up. I love how they use the whole kit, and I respect this music on its own terms.
Yes.
But I would maybe rather hear that drummer in this situation. Yes. So there's just elements of that kind of, it's a bit selfish, of like, I like you here 8 out of 10. Maybe I like you here 9 out of 10. I have a funny feeling that if I had you in this situation, or with those musicians who would bring that out in your playing, or you bring that out in their playing, or just that process, that conversation, that's 10 out of 10 music for me, in my head, in my brain. And a lot of it comes a little bit from that. Like any music that delivers pretty much exactly what it promises is already a bit of an issue for me. I think Moment's Notice doesn't really promise you anything because
it's unpredictable.
Because it's by its very nature.
Yes.
But, you know, there is the musicians are in the process of discovering and learning a new language. They're learning a new language on the spot there. All those kind of safe havens that they would usually have when they play with people with their musical upbringing, and there's that familiarity. They don't have that anymore. Suddenly they got to kind of check that at the door, because they think, if I play this, normally the people I create with would recognize what that means. Me playing this means that they play that. But what if the person you're playing with has come at the music in a completely different way? They're just as valid an improviser, they're just as valid an artist, but those cues are not going to be read by that person. Then what? What's the plan then? And that's what I'm interested in music.
Have you ever been told by a musician that they're uncomfortable, or they were uncomfortable?
I've been told by musicians that they are uncomfortable before, and in one or two situations they were uncomfortable after. Much more common is to be uncomfortable before. People who don't necessarily want to surrender control, right? There is a degree of control that we all want in our day-to-day lives, and certainly in our work, in our jobs,
Yes.
right? And I am asking musicians to surrender far more control than any of them are really used to when I say, this is the gig, and the gig involves you improvising with somebody that you don't know and you're not overly familiar with their music. Some musicians are honest enough to tell me right from the beginning, it's a bit outside of my comfort zone. Like, I would maybe at some point, but it's a little bit outside of my comfort zone. In many of those situations, I would invite the musician to come, check out the night, get a feel for it, see whether they can imagine, you know, just leaping without a net in a night like that. And in many cases, it's turned out that way. So 1 year down the line, they're good to play it. But there's some who till today are pretty firm in saying, this isn't something that I'm ever going to be super comfortable with. Most musicians, especially those who come from jazz schooling though, they relish this. Like, this is what it's all about for them. Improvisation, when you're playing, when you improvise with the same person 100 times, after a while it might cease to become improvisation.
True.
Simply because, like I said before on the cues, you get to read these musical gestures, physical gestures. There's an over familiarity, and too many have been like, I would love to play with that person, but I wouldn't have the first clue how to approach them. So in that sense, I'm almost like a Don King. I'm almost like the promoter that, I can sort that out, you know. So the starting point is always me saying, this is a lineup I've had in mind. Would you be interested in playing with that person? Sometimes they don't even know who the person is, but increasingly that is less of a factor, as in, if they don't know, what they do know is that I curate this thing and it's been going well for some years, and there is a trust of the curation. So
I would love to know, well, we're not going to discuss it here, but I'd love to know some of the people who have declined, some of the people who have jumped at it, and some of the people who were hesitant. But let's go into this fantastic track. Walt Dickerson and Richard Davis. The track, Divine Gemini, chosen by the Don, the legend, the man right in between us, George Nelson, from Moment's Notice.
So this one is just due out 2 minutes 40, the very first one.
Very interesting.
Yeah, where's the running time? So I know. Is there a clock there? Do we know?
Gillian has a clock, so she'll tell you.
We're almost at an hour.
Okay, that's good.
That happens all the time, you know, Richard. Well, it's like we're in here now, you're keeping time. Sometimes, well, most of the time we're not keeping time because the conversation is...
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple of these, like, I call them like grenades, like notes that Richard Davis plays from Nowhere Now. You're just like, what the?
serious recording. Serious.
Oh man, I love this label, man. Steeple J is one of my favorite labels in jazz, for sure.
I will be hunting.
Yeah, but also they're not expensive. Like a lot of people just get obsessive about these expensive labels. This is a label where there's not a single record on this label more expensive than 40 or 45. None. The whole catalogue. And
Yes.
so much cheap as £5. And consistently great, beautifully
Yeah, man,
produced.
this is
Beautifully produced. Listen to that exchange there. It was, there. And there's a stopgap. He probably put his foot on it because it's like a dream.
a lot of people can handle this.
Of course, that's good for them.
Yeah.
It's good for me even. More for me. Keeps the records cheap. It's good. It's good. If they couldn't handle it, I couldn't afford it. But for me, this has got every color, man. Music for me is this. It's a color chart. It's the whole thing. Like every color here, man.
We're gonna do the first very first.
Yeah, maybe we just go to this next, and I'll talk about it after. So it takes your audience a bit by surprise that there's another tune. Yeah?
This is almost done.
Yeah. Listen to the kick drum on Philip Wilson's gear. Philip Wilson's mic setup is the best mic setup of any drummer ever. His mic setup is ridiculous. I think it's like a 3 mic setup. This one is just 2 minutes and a half. This one, so we'll get back into the conversation.
Some serious duets going on here. Why? Moment's notice on wax.
Yeah, I wish for that. So that's Lester Bowie, Philip Wilson. So both of them you may know from our ensemble in Chicago.
Yes.
And Philip Wilson normally percussion, as in non-Western drum kit. There he's on kit, and his mic setup is ridiculous.
Yeah, man.
That's got to be one of the best recorded, like rendered improvs ever. But that's like my North Star for Moment's Notice improvs. Can we get it to that level? Yeah? But yeah, great duo improv from two musicians that I love.
Wonderful, man.
Yeah.
We need to talk about our own, because I'm claiming Moment's Notice also, you know.
Yeah.
Our own Moment's Notice. Because it is, you're curating and choosing musicians that we know and love. And I remember going to that one and knowing a few of the musicians. And we have their records. And you know, we've seen them perform in their own outfits, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But Moment's Notice, again, as you said, takes them out of that comfort zone. Almost, to me, forces them to be speaking a new language musically in order to communicate with the person they're collaborating with. And that's a fantastic thing to see, how you then posture to bring something wonderful with another, birthing new music, because and new sounds. That is what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, thank you for saying that, for acknowledging that. I guess on the one or two occasions where, at least to my standards, I've got it wrong, or I fall a little bit below those standards on the curation. All it does is it brings to light how difficult it is to get it right. Because it's not quite as simple as inviting musicians who haven't played together before and getting them to play together, because that can be a complete mess first. But for me, a complete mess wouldn't be if everyone was in everybody's way. It would be if everyone reverted to cliche to get them through the experience of
to the known.
Yeah, if they just said, so
zone.
We've never played together before, so let's just do the safe thing to do. And that's easy. That's what you get in most jam sessions, for example. You turn up at a jam session, there's a degree of let's just not embarrass myself, and then at a certain point, if it's tunes that you're really comfortable with, you can
you fall into a standard.
So I'm really keen that doesn't happen at Moment's Notice. So I think the combinations, the very specific combinations that are challenging enough, that each musician has to be very present, and that cliches would, in my mind at least, would fail them. If they were to revert to cliche in that combination, it would be immediately apparent to them that was not the gig. And that's a tricky thing to get right. I think it's just a tricky thing to get right. Yeah, so yeah.
Gillian, how you think about the same thing, musicians that we know and we sit in the living room or when we DJ, we play the music. And then you see, what we call it, chalk and cheese come together. What do you think about it?
When you say chalk and cheese, you mean
disparate, seemingly disparate musicians. Seemingly disparate.
Well, it was. I think George kind of answered that in the sense that you have to have that musician that's confident in what they play, confident in themselves, I should say, in order for them to feel that they could, play with somebody else and not fumble. I know you were saying that. Yes, and I know you were saying that sometimes it is hard to get it right, and I can get that. One of the questions that I was going to ask, and you sort of you answered it really, was really that. Is it a particular I know it's not a sound because of the fact that you want it to be that impromptu thing.
Yeah.
But is it that even though you will feel that there's a musician that might be uncomfortable with playing with somebody else, what made you still think that, say, Idris Rahman could
Play with Jake.
play with Jake? That's
Yeah.
it's not asking what the formula
Sure.
is. It's still sort of picking into that sort of combination.
Yeah, good question. If you're so, just because I'm like really into music and film, people are always a bit surprised when I tell them I'm really into football and basketball. They just imagine that person is not that person. It's just simplistic, reductive
Yes.
thinking. The greatest football managers ever. Yes, they might have a scouting department, but they do a fair bit of the scouting themselves. Yeah, they go out, they watch matches, they're watching matches. You know, a lot of me being a photographer on the jazz scene here, watched a lot of matches. Yeah, I watched a lot of matches. I've seen these guys play in front of packed houses, and I've seen them play in front of me and Peter Freeman. Yeah, I've seen them play in front of 2-3 people.
Yeah.
I've seen them play in every in most types of music situations you could imagine, based on their relative age, right? So when it comes to why I might think that one would be interesting with that one, it can be for a variety of reasons. One reason, and this is the laziest reason, would be that I just instantly hear compatibility. The reason I say that's lazy is because what I'm hearing may well be based on something I've heard before. Somebody listens to a lot of records, I may just hear, oh, it just sounds a bit like this person or that person. So like more and more throughout the seasons, that's almost a red flag. When I hear that kind of obvious compatibility, that is a cue to not do it. For me, I'm more interested in the uncomfortable. I'm more interested in the element of risk. Now that element of risk can come in a lot of ways. If you have, for example, 2 archetypally similar musicians that are super similar, I'm kind of interested in testing that theory of archetypes. Theory of archetypes based that you will always fill what's not there, right? So for example, if you had a trio of musicians who are all quite alpha and they're all quite dominant, if you put all 3 together in a bottom-up improv situation, would it just be noise of 3 people wrestling for the center stage? Or does that theory of archetype start to come into passing? Is somebody going to volunteer to be Robin instead of Batman? Is someone going to be Alfred? Like, does that happen? So I'm sometimes interested in it, and so I would deliberately put 3 or 2 alphas together to see whether a different part of that person's playing comes to being by virtue of the person they're playing with being quite similar. Other times, I may listen to a musician, I think all you ever do is play with other musicians who have your level of virtuosity. So you see these almost like all-star bands where you think, oh wow, that's like technically the best drummer on the scene, playing with technically the best saxophone player, playing with technically the best double bass player. And sometimes I don't feel that makes for the best music. And there are many examples of this in music recording history, of where you've had nothing but like just dons everywhere, and you put them together and somehow it's a mess. And so with some of those musicians, I feel like the lineups I put together almost to give them a bit of respite. Like this is what you sound like if you play with a drummer that's more emotional rather than technical, because you only ever play with technical drummers. This is what you sound like when you play with a vocalist who isn't interested in singing on the beat. There's somebody who considers themselves more a voice artist, and their voice is a really atonal instrument. I've never heard you with such a vocalist before. I think they would bring out something really interesting in your playing, so I put them together. So the answer to this is, I like to take the moment's notice viewer on a slow cook journey. I assume that the same people are coming to every gig. That's not actually true, but the reason I have episode 1, episode 2, episode 3 is I've almost got the mentality of somebody who's curating like a season, like a TV box set, like that they almost continue from one another. So that the first one was the alpha one, the second one was the alpha beta one, the third one was the 3 musicians playing the same instrument, and let's see how they navigate that. The fourth one is and on and on and on. So no 2 episodes have the same rationale behind why I've put people together. I don't have a formula where I say I only ever put people together if in my head they will sound harmonious together. That will be an episode, the harmony episode. You sound harmonious together in my head. I'm probably wrong, but that's how it sounds. The next one is, this is super interesting because I'm putting together a musician who only ever plays atonal music with somebody who only ever plays groove music. How's that going to play out? That could be fun. The next one, 2 musicians who are quite groove heavy with one of them who's never played a groove in their life. That could be interesting. And on and on and on. It's different possibilities and it's infinite. It's like Sudoku or whatever. Like there'll always be a different Sudoku. Yeah?
Is that the reason why you don't actually play an instrument?
That's a good question. I mean, I can give you lots of reasons why I don't play an instrument. The
It
first one.
sounds like you'd be a multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah, maybe.
Trying to
Man.
navigate it all.
The first one is that my mum just paid for lessons for my sister. I mean, we're not a rich family, so bad decision because she just quit in a short time. So she had the clarinet lessons, and I was that kid. It's like, you scorn me once, don't ever ask me. Don't come to me with like seconds and stuff. Yeah. So that's the embryo of this. But beyond that, yeah, maybe you're right. I think I'm just a little bit too flighty and in love with so many different elements of the music to ever be disciplined in the way I am with visual arts. You know, certain disciplines, just practice disciplines, the rudiments of like drum rudiments, of having to play certain rudiments that are designed to bring the sort of to internalize your approach on the drums in improvisation situations. I don't think my head works like that, but I also like taking people by surprise. I'm happy to say that I'm not a musician to performance level. And every so often I might surprise people by playing something. That's the way to be. Don't paint too big a target on your back.
I think Gordon's kind of like that in that when he's listening to music, it's more about the particular elements in it, the sounds and so on.
Indeed.
Maybe that's why he's not a musician. I don't know, but I think it's there's an advantage to it because you are then not taken up in yourself being the best at something. You're able to be more objective in how you listen.
Nice. Should I talk about the next one?
Yep.
Alright, so we've had some top spoken word artists playing One Stones now. We've had everyone from Anthony Joseph to Brother Portrait to people who make spoken word with instrumental work like Alabaster de Plume. We've had all sorts of amazing spoken word artists. Nadim Dingabisi. So I mean, look out for this An Alien Called Harmony EP. I'm lucky enough to know that lot quite well. Like I know Monica's one of my best friends, and Nadim is a great guy, and I've listened to a fair bit of the EP coming out. In my humble, completely biased opinion, that's as good as you're gonna hear for the next year. I promise you. Everybody else might be wasting their time. Like, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what those two have done.
Thank you for the tip.
Honestly, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Doesn't surprise me if you know them. Anyway, so with the spoken word artist, again, when I started to put this thing together, another reason why I didn't really put the jazz title on it was because for me, like, some of my favorite bits of improvisation may have had jazz instrumentation and some jazz tropes, but they were not to be found in the jazz section in the record shop. So I'd often go to spoken word stuff to find particular like poets, some black poets from the 60s and 70s, and that Langston Hughes records with Mingus is a good example of that. One that I discovered, maybe I was 20 when I first heard this, was the Amiri Baraka Nation Time. And I'm not gonna say anymore, just play it. just play it.
Whoa, what can it be? Whoa, what can it be? What can it be? Whoa, 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 be what can it be? Yo. What can it be? What can it be? Whoa, 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 be. What can it be? Yo. It's holding me. What can it be?
While I'm very excited to hear this track, it is not the track, and George is gonna cue it up. But in the meantime, I'll talk about spoken word practitioners, because I love spoken word. And a lot of people would know this, but I read for a degree in English years ago in Jamaica, and poetry and the spoken word has always been integral to my vibe and what I love. I remember one of the first tracks I heard that really got to me was a Linton Kwesi Johnson track, you know? And hearing that in the 80s and coupling that with the DJs, the mic men at the time, Big U, all these people, you know? All right, we're ready, you know, we're ready? Let's do it. This is the track.
It's nation time.
This is the track.
Time to get together. Time to be one strong, fast, black energy space. One pulsating, positive magnetism rising. Time to get up and become. Time to become. Time to get up, become black genius, rising spirit muscle. Sun man, get up, rise. Heart of universe is the big future of the world. The black man is the future of the world. Become, rise up, future, the black genius, spirit reality. Move from crossroads back, from dead snake head, from weak fuel in slow motion, from dancing teeth and coward, from jibber jabber, pat me raw, pat me sandwich. When the brothers strike, niggas, come out, niggas. When the brothers take over the school, help niggas, come on, niggas. All niggas, niggas must change up. Come together in unity, unified for nation time. It's nation time. It's nation time. Jesus niggas come from the grave. For the Jesus niggas dead in the cave of that past. Juju's on Shadow World. Raise up Christ, nigga. Christ was black. Krishna was black. Shango was black. Black Jesus nigga come out and strike. Black Jesus nigga come out and strike. Come out and strike. Hey, come out, shout, close horn, close credential, burn the policies, get a black stuff to dead statue, niggas into their life, Shango, Buddha, black, Herman, bastard, black, Moses, Krishna, black. When the brothers wanna stop, Amos, come out, niggas, come out. Come out, niggas, come out. Come out, niggas, come out. Help us stop the devil, help us stop the devil, help us stop the devil, help us build a new world. Niggas, come out, niggas, come out, niggas, come out. Niggas, come out. Brothers are we, with you and your sons, your daughters are ours, and we are the same, all the blackness from one black out. When the world is clear, you be with us. Come on, niggas, come out. Come on, niggas, come out. It's nation time. 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 It's nation time.
Nice,
loving it. You know?
Oh, that's amazing. Just thinking about it. I have quite a good body clock, so I'm kind of hearing how long everything else is going to be in my head.
As getting into this, you know.
Yeah.
Trust me, I was gonna fade it, but
Yeah.
fantastic music. Talk to us about this one.
It's a cello duo, so it's Tamika Reed and Fred Lundberg Home. So I mentioned about manifesting. Tamika Reed is very high on my list. Very, very high on my list.
I need to
So
do a
again,
lot of this thing.
You need to do it. It works sometimes. I mean, also the double cello thing. I'd never heard two string instruments together, the same string instrument, and then so much versatility in the sounds. Like,
Yes.
so again, this is one of these. Not this recording specifically. It's more when I saw Tamika play in the double cello situation that I thought, oh my god, like that could be a really interesting thing to hear again. So again, when putting together lineups, not being too conventional in the configuration of instruments, the combination of instruments. So we've had a trio of vibraphone, double bass, and electric bass. We've had guitar duos. We've had two altos and drums. Like there's all of these things are possible because I'm less steered by the actual instrument, but more each individual's approach to playing that instrument.
Yes.
And some altos actually sound much more like tenors or even sopranos or baritones in comparison with other altos. They sound closer to other tenors than they do particular altos. I would say, for example, two musicians that I love, but Jason Yard and Nathaniel Facey, and their approach to playing the same instrument
Yes.
is really quite different, to a point that Jason reminds me more of musicians who play other types of saxophone. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that tune's called Monticello anyway. Yeah. So there's two great Monticellos. There's Monty Alexander Monticello, and then there's this cello duo Monticello.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think that when you bring musicians together who play the same instrument,
Mhm.
do you think that they make a conscious effort to sound different, to create a different sound with the same instrument
I think
within that moment?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's naturally going to be that. I mean, in a way, the first exposure I've had to this is not in a performance situation.
Mm-hmm.
Having worked on the scene for a while, some of my best friends are musicians. They're from the music scene. They were the connections I made working, like most people meet their friends in workplaces.
Yes.
This is my workplace, yeah? So many times I've been to parties where, fireplace music, right? And whatever instruments are there, you just need to make it work. So I've been to a party where the only instruments there were double bass, violin, viola, percussion. So come on, and then you see it play out, and then and then you see Jasper Hoyby do something with his instrument that he wouldn't normally do in order to make that kind of combination work. More so when it's people playing the same instruments. I have been to parties before where it was three saxophones, and I went, oh man, this could be messy, but these are great musicians. These are musicians who have internalized the principles of being a musician. It's not entirely based on aesthetics or sound. So yeah.
All right, let's roll in. Time
next
is
one?
progressing.
So I'll be quick with this.
If you are just tuning in, this is Mr and Mrs Wedderburn Presents, and we are speaking to the Don of many Dons, George Nelson, photographer, creative, curator. What else? All around Don. we didn't know going there. What?
And no record label.
And now record label head, which we are going to be delving into. But tell us about the next track, and then when we come back, we get into
So there's a few reasons I'm choosing this one. First, it brings the few records in the contemporary sort of jazz music, improvised music, that remind me so much of the music that I first got into, the improvised music I first got into, than this Ruth Goller record that came out last week or the week before. So I was on it immediately. Whenever I see Ruth's Skiller band with Lauren Kinsella and Alice Grant, wherever they play in London, I'll make the effort to hear them because they're some of my favorite musicians in London. So when I heard that Ruth had this international anthem album out, and like Seb Rochford was on it, and Mark Sanders was on it, and all of the Skilla lot were on it, it was one of the must-have purchases for me. And I don't just count on the fact that I know musicians that I'm going to get records. I was just out. Went to Sounds of the Universe, got it like first thing that morning before it sold out, and been listening to a lot. Ruth, interestingly, was the first musician ever to play Moments Notes twice. The first person I ever invited to play in two completely different lineups. Once in a trio with Julia Beale and Jazz Kesa, and then last year in a duo with Shirley Teta. Ruth is an incredible musician. Just waiting to hear a little bit of this tune with Seb and with Lauren Kinsella. Yeah.
Before even going to it, I've been blessed to see Ruth twice in two different configurations. First she played, I went to Cafe Otto. I saw her play with Bex Birch.
Yeah.
Who is another empress to me. And then a couple of weeks ago, I saw her play with Betamax.
Yeah.
Max Hallett.
Champagne Dub.
Champagne
Dub.
I was at the launch. The only thing I can say is, my God, I had a lot of love for her from way back.
Yeah.
The love still remains. You know, we got the chance to hang out after the gig, Max. Everybody, her excellent. And you mentioned Seb.
Yeah.
I have talked about Seb Rochford. And I remember saying to Ruth, to Max, to all of them after the gig, that you are all descendants of Seb Rochford and what he is. True. If you know Seb Rochford music, you know that they are almost direct descendants in what they do to Seb. Big up to Seb Rochford, wherever you are, one of the dons, one of the pioneers in this thing. So I've said my piece.
And somebody out there who's got a lot more money than me needs to get in touch with Seb Rochford and shake him until he releases the Full Bun Taversham record. Full Bun Taversham were definitely one of the best bands in London history, UK history. And that stuff does not exist on vinyl, and that's like an issue for me. So like,
you know what?
If Seb can just stop touring with Patti Smith for 1 minute, because he's got some big gigs out there. Let's talk Full Bun Taversham again. Yeah?
I'm going to actually send him a message after this. I'm going to send him a message.
Manifest it.
Yes, I'm going to send a message and manifest.
Yeah.
But let's hear this Ruth Gala track.
Yeah, let's do it.
Fantastic moment.
Nice.
Sadness breaks my heart
Seb, you remember when we first saw Sons of Kemet? It was Seb and Tom Skinner.
Seb is amazing.
Yeah, man.
Honestly, this band, this Skilla voice band that she's got, it's like just an acapella. It's an acapella three. And sometimes she plays bass, but it's mainly an acapella three voices. So it's Alice Grant, Tom Allen's wife.
Yes.
And Lauren Kinsella from Slow Poet. Lauren Kinsella was Simon Grant's partner for years. Unbelievable. Listen to that. Like, it's just unbelievable what they do, man. So the next track we're doing after this is the exclusive. You're the first show to hear anything from the test pressing.
We'll have a talk more.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it, of course. well, but a very different type of Philly vocalist. Just an a cappella thing. I want to try that. I have a few people in my head. You definitely want to come to the next one. So not just this one I've already announced, but the one after that. So that's Bex, Duo with Byron Waller. And then the trio of Sarah Guru is just unbelievable. So Adwa Nascimento, the loud player from Brazil, and Dave Smith on drums. Amazing. Okay, we're running out of time, so probably we need to fade. Probably need to do a fade now, just because of this.
The ethereal sounds of Ruth Gala. Phenomenal new album. He said this is sold out already.
Nah, I just wanted to make sure I got it before it sold out because I think it will. However many they pressed.
You have
It's
a
gonna
point.
go, man.
You have a point.
Just get that. I learned that from the Seed, the very first Seed record, Cassie's one. That sold out quick when on release.
Yes.
And the Nala Sinefro record sold out
I
quick on release.
can't get that one. I can't get it. I remember.
I'll speak to Clara to get it.
Thank you. I tried to get it from Rough Trade and they held me out until it just couldn't bother. But yeah, we need to come to the meat of the matter, and that is the label that you set up to use as a vehicle to share the music of Moment's Notice with the wider public, with the masses, with the proletariat, with the good people out there, the discerning listeners. When did the label, and the label is called Red Dust, when was it conceived?
So my idea behind the label, I'm not really a believer in keeping music in vaults for any longer than is necessary. I get annoyed when I hear of another new Mingus album or a new Coltrane album that's sat in the vaults for 50 years. I don't want to be part of that, so I'm trying to get music out. Also, it's not the biggest venue. That's a big part of why the music sounds the way it does. It's very intimate. The acoustics are quite particular in that building. So I'm reluctant to move out of the space. But the problem is, it's limited in capacity, and a lot of people who would like to hear Moment's Notice can't get tickets on time.
Yes.
Some gigs towards the end of last year were selling out in 10, 11 minutes. The one in November, just before the Jazz Festival, sold out in 10 minutes. I didn't have enough time to attach the ticket page to the link tree before it sold out. Yeah? So this is a big reason for getting the music out. So I made up my mind last year that this was the year. Well, ideally it would have been the end of last year. There were a few delays, which has meant that this is the year that I'm finally going to be putting out one, maybe two. And then further down the line, it's going to be a lot more prolific than that. It's more about just launching this label right, getting it in the lexicon of, you know, the consumers out there. And then I feel good about releasing quite a few in a year, because this music is sitting there already.
Yes.
in the archives. And somebody needs to ask me, why is it called Red Dust? I've done 20, 30 interviews and no one's asked me that question yet.
You seem to be preempting us, because that was the next question, Brendan. You know us, you know.
Okay, now we're talking.
You know us.
Did you grow up watching V? Do you know what V is?
No. But I can tell you our story with Red Dust after you tell me about V.
Alright, man, I'll tell you about V. So V was, in the early 80s, the most expensive TV series ever made. It was a sci-fi about aliens who arrive on Earth, and they come with cup in hand saying that we've got some fundamental problems on our planet, and we're looking to manufacture a chemical here with your help that will save our species. And you know, it seems a bit too good to be true. They look human in appearance. They bring a lot of, you know, very equitable words and energy to the planet. But in time, it turns out that they have a hidden agenda. And the film is a sort of Third Reich allegory and does a lot to explain how the Hitler Youth, for example, were recruited and galvanized. And a lot of the echoes of what happened there happened during Brexit here, yeah? Just the way media manipulation worked, the way there were certain spokespeople in the media who were trusted by people on Earth, and they spoke so favorably about this alien species that in time people didn't ask any questions, etc. Anyway, eventually the humans, the scientists who are being painted as leading the conspiracy to discredit these aliens, end up making an antidote in the making a toxin in the lab that is designed to, in a very humane way, make these aliens, if they find it impossible to inhabit the earth, they cannot breathe that air anymore. So it's a very humane way of getting rid of the poison, getting rid of the toxin, and it's called red dust. Yeah, it was this red dust that they made in the lab. Yeah, and so I always had this thing in my mind that red dust would be a really good name for a label because I liked what that represented in the context of that series. So red dust it is.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I don't even want to tell you about my red dust because it's very earthy. But I'll tell you anyway. In Jamaica, my grandmother lived up in the hills and we lived in the suburbs. And we used to go up there every week. Loved it. And that earth was red earth all around. And those were the days that I didn't like to shower. But we ran all over the place barefoot and came home with that red dust and tried to go into her bed. Yes, and we got a proper ass whooping and dragged to get washed off in cold water.
That's a good red dust.
Yes.
A lot
Very good red dust.
A lot of people thought that my red dust was after like Nigerian suya pepper. So suya, which is like Nigerian kebabs, right? The pepper that you put on them, kind of homemade ground pepper, is really, really red. And I really overdo that stuff when I eat suya. So people go, you're just like, sharing your diet with the rest of the world. I mean, it's nothing to do with that, it's to do with V. But yeah, red dust, man, versatile.
I tell you what,
So the first red dust release had to be this one. It was certainly, this was a contender for the first 3 or 4. It was a trio of Johannes Kebede from Kokoroko, Tamar Osborne from Kolokuto, and many, many other projects. And Will Glaser, who for the longest time has been, in my mind, the most underappreciated drummer in London. In fact, everybody knows that now, to a point where he isn't underappreciated anymore. Like that 3, none of them had ever played together before. 2 of them had never heard of the other one. 1 of them hadn't heard of one of the other 2. It's a typical moment's notice lineup of, we just need to work this thing out. And it's all there on the record. This isn't an edited recording, it's the whole thing. Both sides of the record comes up to 44 minutes, 42 seconds. So the record is called 4442. Every single release will be named after the running time of the record. There are a few reasons for that, but I think one of the main reasons is because this is an egoless project. This is not about the individual, this is about the collective, this is about the music. So the album is named after the music. The music is 44 minutes, 42 seconds. That is the name of the album. And then you need to turn to the back to read the individual names. And my name is somewhere tucked away right at the very bottom corner. And I want to hide away from that. This is about the music.
I love it because when you talk about the musicians not coming together, we know the musicians. I remember interviewing Tamar in about 2016 when her first album came out on the Corner Records.
Yeah.
We had just come back to Jamaica, and I did that interview on Radar Radio, which is now defunct. And we've been huge fans and disciples of Tamar, Kolokuto, whatever she's done.
Yeah.
We have some of the records to prove it.
Yeah.
Yuan, we've known Yuan, we've worked with Yuan.
Yeah.
Yuan is our nephew, he's one of our musical nephews,
Yeah.
and we have quite a few. So, Will, we've heard of, funny enough, I've never met Will.
Okay.
But again, as you said, a Dan, all around Dan, hugely underappreciated, getting his flowers.
I had him
slowly.
play like quite minimal percussion in Brass Mask last week, the week before, 2 weeks back. So Tom Challenge's Brass Mask, it doesn't get much better than that for some of
Yes.
the UK jazz bands, but they haven't played in England for like a decade. So that was a bit of a reunion gig. Theon Cross guested in it because he was part of
Nice.
the band. Everyone was there. John Scott there, George Crowley there, and Will. So John Scott was the main kit drummer, and Will was playing very, very minimal percussion accompaniment. And again, just that level of discernment, that level of humility, and he found a very important but subtle role in the overall sound of Brass Mask. Yeah, just a little clue. Tom Challenge is finally going to play Mama's Nose this year. I'm not going to tell you who he's playing with. Wait for that. But Tom for me is like there. The ceiling's not high enough for me to do what I'm doing. Tom is like there, you know. So yeah, that. So I brought in a test pressing, and I'm gonna play. I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. We'll fade out when we fade out. Taking it from the start of side 2 of the record that is not due for official release until March the 27th. So this is a world premiere.
World exclusive.
Mr. and Mrs Wedderburn. We
You
do
know-
world premieres here.
Yes, we do.
That's
you know,
what we do.
We do.
That's what we do.
And you know, we're very pleased to be doing. We're very pleased to be playing this. Thank you for bringing it. Thank you for bringing the story of Moments Notice, the story of Red Dust, the phenomenal music, and to be playing here, Tamar Osborne, the Dan Yohannes, and Will Glazer. Let me just do it, no?
Do it.
Let's do
Do
it.
it.
World exclusive, one more time, a world exclusive Red Dust recording.
Dad knocked out this.
Hey. Listen to the quality of the record. This is a live, right? It's not a studio record. I'm going to talk. Please give me the opportunity to talk that. I need to really big these people up.
Yeah, man. Straight. We have time, right? What time is it?
Close to 50.
Love that decision Johan made to come in at this point. So left-handed, like kind of goes, and then that ends up becoming like a Get Carter theme or something like just this way. It's a great decision. And I'm gonna try and take it all the way up to a baritone explosion. So she flips instruments in about a minute and a half's time, and then you'll hear the madness. And it's a proper groove. This is gonna be like every DJ is gonna want a piece of this section.
Hold my cup.
Oh, for sure.
Put my cup aside.
Will. That thing he does with drums, it's almost like he's teaching himself how to play drums in the game. Like he deliberately builds from nothing to like mastery. So she changes now to baritone.
You're reliving that gig, Bridget.
Honestly, it's one of my favorite moments in this gigs ever.
I love
It was like,
You're worse than me, you know.
okay, cinematic ones. No.
Just pure drama. It's almost like we're in a movie and they're soundtracking that
Exactly.
movie.
Yeah, Sir Michael Caine 70s spy film. Express file, get Carter.
Yes, right.
But I want to take it right up to the explosion. So you see how they don't microwave it, they properly cook it. They don't force it.
Yeah, that's
Like it arrives when it arrives. That baby will arrive when it will arrive. You can't force it. Okay, here we go. Double time.
As I say, I will say what I need to say on air. What a world exclusive. What a world exclusive. And you know what? Let me even go in before you go in.
Yeah. Say it,
Because,
say it.
again, I'm listening to two musicians I know very well. Well enough. I know the music very well. And, again, as you say, an understated legend. But what, you know who I was listening to? Johan and Keys. And what he was doing, as you say. You know, and I'm looking at three different musicians who have come into this music on different levels. Johan is largely self-taught. Largely self-taught. Tamar is Tamar. You know? Tamar is just simply stunning, simply a legend as his will. And how they combined, how they came together, but still standing up, still keeping their individuality and crushing it, the three musicians. Mad. You can't beat a world exclusive like this. You cannot. So thank you.
Wait till you hear the remaining 35 minutes, 15 seconds or whatever.
Nice,
Yeah, man.
The only thing I'll say right now, you're hearing it now. When does the album drop? Officially?
March the 27th, vinyl only for 1 month, maybe 6 weeks, and then the digital release. I'm doing it the other way around.
Alright, nice one.
Yeah, so the vinyl people, this is a message to everybody. You should be vinyl people.
Brethren,
Yeah.
just give me the heads up before you drop it. Or hold my copy, me tell you now. Right now, but talk to us, because you've been
Yes.
living this, the 10 minutes that we've of the gig. Tell us about the gig, being there, what you were feeling, what you saw the audience feeling, how they were feeding off the music, all of that.
Yeah, well, in a way, the bigger risk was, see, sometimes the risk can come in different ways, right? Because you've got 2 + 3 and then the combo 5. So sometimes the duo is kind of risky, the trio is kind of risky, but the bigger risk is what they're going to sound like together, because you're coming from polar opposites.
Yes.
This one, I think both lineups on that same bill represented that same level of whoa, you know? So we had Rob Luft playing duo
Wow.
with Ife Ogunjobi on that night. And I just remember that one for whatever reason, and it was quite revealing about the way a lot of musicians have been almost like indoctrinated, is that was the one that most people were like, how's that gonna work? Like, that's never gonna work. In my head, I never even questioned that would work. I'd listened to a lot of Rob, I'd listened to a lot of Ife. First of all, I'd listened to him in very sort of typical situations of an 18-year-old trumpet player, big jam sessions, stuff like Steam Down. And then I'd also listen to him playing big bands, like third orchestra. Do you know anything about third orchestra? So third orchestra, Byron Wallen, Ife, the two trumpets there, Alex Zavadski's in that group, Hanan Buya, who's playing the Next Moment's Notice, is in that group. But you've also got they've got this whole bunch of different people in that group. It's crazy how vast they are. And I heard him there, and I had another side to his playing there, and I hear a whole other side to his playing when he would be playing like public, like rehearsal stroke jam sessions with Warriors when he was really young.
Yes.
I'd had so many different sides to his playing that I felt it was really, really stereotypical, slightly drawn on race grounds, I'd say. Just as a black person, I was like very, very sensitive to when black musicians are put in a box. And I felt like a lot of people, just because of his age, his ethnicity, who he kind of rolled with, there was a certain perception of what he couldn't play. And I was only too aware that he couldn't just play that stuff. He could tear it up. He would be unbelievable in that situation. So I always remember, like, at the rehearsal, Rob, who I love, was trying to show, it was one of the few times where, and it was after that I became really strict about sound check being one on, one off. So one of the few times where a musician was trying to kind of work on something with, and there was, Ife had this thing of like, yeah, I'm well brought up Nigerian, so I'm just gonna like nod along and humour.
Yes.
I'm not actually listening to any of that. We're not gonna play any of that. We're just gonna play what we're gonna play. And he had that look. He was like smiling, like, oh yeah, that's really nice. Kenny Wheeler, like, really interesting, lovely. And then the gig started, and Ife just did exactly the thing that a mature musician does in such a situation. He listened. He was trying to work it out, couldn't entirely work it out. First sort of 5, 6, 7 minutes, the little Rob tropes and stuff. And then when he got it, when Rob got it, it was super special. So the reason I'm saying that is this trio record was not recorded in a vacuum.
Yes.
That's the one that preceded it. And I think because that thing had come together in that way, and everybody in the room was like, man, I need to unlearn everything I think I know about music and these musicians. I think that was a great table setter for these three to be super risky. And I think there was something about how risky the first two were, that the next three were so liberated by that. And then from the very beginning, it was about risk. Nobody played the thing they usually play. And I've heard, just conservative estimate, just to give you some idea, prior to that, I reckon I've seen Tamar play live over 20 times. I think I've seen Johannes, prior to that, at least a few years ago, play live over 10, 12 times. Rob Luft, I would have seen him play more than 20 times because he plays with one of my best friends, Alice Sabatsky. So I was really, really familiar with all of their playing, and none of them played what they usually play, the thing they would usually do in that kind of improv situation, the first 5 minutes. So instantly I was thinking, yeah, we're good here. I sat back at that point. I hardly have any pictures from that gig. This is always a clue as to how I was feeling during a gig. If I've got too many pictures from a gig, I ain't really feeling it.
Yes, I have time to do something
else. I
else.
have time to do another job. Yeah?
Yes.
So I hardly have any pictures from that gig. So don't expect to see the album cover with like photographs from the gig. I was somewhere else. I was in their world. Yeah? I was in their world. They weren't in mine. I was in theirs. Yeah? I locked in, and it was truly, truly transcendental, unbelievable improv. Curtis, who I have to mention, Curtis Alvidge, the sound person, who captured that sound and has done an amazing job for a good few years now. He's not going to be doing it anymore though. So we've got a new sound engineer. No, we all do things for as long as we do them, and then we need to do something else. It was his decision. Love Curtis. There's nothing but love between me and Curtis. And he did an amazing job with that audio. But the reason I'm mentioning him is every so often we'll speak to each other about our favourite moments notices. He's one of the only people I can do that with because he's one of the only people who's been to all of them like me, right?
Yes.
And he always mentions that one as one of his favourite one or two. He's been really consistent with that in the 3 years. It always comes up. So yeah, it had to be this one. If I was going to do a trio recording first, it had to be this one.
We're looking forward to it. It is that time.
Yeah.
Time flies fast, you know. Our time is up. Quite abruptly, as Gillian has said. I'm really upset with you.
But abrupt is good sometimes. You know, these guys, they overrun with the improv sometimes, and there's beautiful things happening. But the time's the time.
Yes.
People got to travel from South London to North London on a Tuesday night. Time's the time. So I will cut off really beautiful moments sometimes and say, you should have hit that beautiful moment 5 minutes ago because that moment is gone now. Time. So you just do the same to me, it's all good. I'm used to it.
You know what?
If I dish it out, I gotta be able to take it.
You know what? We are so blessed, so honored to have you.
Thank you.
And for the second time, but you know what's good about this time? It's a full 2 hours, and we were able to delve and listen to some good music and
Mrs Wedderburn is here for this one. Last time it was just me and you.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So that in itself, you know, congratulations on Red Dust.
Thank you.
Congratulations on entering a 4th season of Moments Notice. Before we wrap up, tell the people where it is and how you get there and what
all
to
of
do
that
to
stuff.
get tickets.
Alright, so it's Amp Studios on Old Kent Road. So nearest station would be, well, the two Peckham stations are really near, yeah? Easy enough place to get to. The music is pretty much uniformly great every single time, and I've got lineups every month this year. There may be 1 month where we don't do it in AMP, but there will be a Moment's Notice lineup every single month this year. Starting with one on the date of the launch itself, March the 27th. This lineup was announced 6-7 weeks back, so we've pretty much sold out of tickets. There may be 1 or 2 though, so it's worth looking. Whenever I place returns and stuff back on the site, so there will be some returns, so keep looking out for that. That lineup is Alex Hitchcock on saxes, who's great, playing duo with Said Silbak. Said Silbak is one of the greatest Palestinian oud players of all time, and I cannot believe he's playing Moment's Notice. That's like ridiculous for me. And of course, I don't want to get too political on your show because I don't know where you all stand on that, but the timing the timing couldn't be better for that. You know, one thing that I've wrestled with throughout this whole process of taking 4 months off to focus on the label is that I'm somebody who has always been very affected by those things that I can't necessarily control but are happening in the world right here, right now. I'm as affected by those things as those things in my personal life. And I'm speaking on behalf of a lot of my musician friends too. It's been quite difficult to be able to go out there and function effectively with the genocide, and I'm going to call it a genocide that's happening in the world as we speak right now. Saeed is somebody who friends and family have been taken from him in this period. So at any moment, Saeed choosing to play Moment's Notice, making that a relative priority, would be something that I'm really humbled by. In this situation now, obviously he has a lot to say, and he's a very honest musician, and he probably can't think of many better places to say the things that he has to say, literally, metaphorically, than Amp Studios on March the 27th. But my God, I'm very moved by that. We have a trio also playing of Hannah Mbuya, Sam Jones, Sultan Stevenson. There are many reasons why I may have put these 3 together, but one, again, is I just get annoyed when, if there's a young black musician, they're automatically assumed to sound a certain way or play a certain way. Sultan, Sam, and Hannah are so different, it's unbelievable. Their approach to their instruments could not be more different. They all happen to be people of color. They're heavy on the melanin. So next thing I'm told that is the kind of lineup that seems kind of a bit conventional. No, it's not conventional. There's nothing remotely conventional about that lineup. They are so different. And wait until you hear what they do. It will be special.
People really say that too.
Yeah. But not, they don't, it's a microaggression. They don't mean it to be disparaging. They're like, oh man, that's cool. Like, that's nice. Like, they're all going to sound like cute, and they're all kind of young, and it's all going to sound like right. I'm like, you wouldn't say that if one of them was Japanese and one of them was like Anglo-Saxon. But you make the assumption that because they're all quite young and they're black, therefore it's going to be nice, easy, everyone's speaking the same language. Sultan has a very particular way with his piano. Sam's influences, you just trust me, he is rangy. I do this series on Inflated Tears on Mars called 10 Seconds. And look at his 10-second picks if you want some insight into what it is that makes Sam tick with the music.
Before we go, I just remembered that we need to plug our own gigs.
Do it.
We're gonna do it very quickly. And you mentioned Sam. Before I go to Sam, Mr. and Mrs Wedderburn as GW Jazz, we, like George, we curate, not in the sense that George does, but we put on gigs then, simply put. And we're doing 2 sets of gigs actually per month. One we call Jazz in the Present Tense, named after the radio show I did and you were on.
Yeah.
This happens this Friday, every third Friday of the month in Clapham at the Omnibus Theatre. And we're showcasing a talented young trombonist, James Wade Siren, who is bringing a crack team. You know, that quintet is going to be mad. Go onto the Omnibus website, get your tickets. It's this Friday, 9 p.m.
Nice. You said Menelik's and that, no?
Menelik, yes, Menelik Coffee, young bassist, and
Heavy.
Brethren, we've worked with. Let me get into the next one. Because time is running and I'll be cut off. Next week, Wednesday, we do our monthly Future Jazz Now. And that has been running since 2016, 2015. In various venues. We revived it last October. It's every third Wednesday of the month in Peckham at the CLF Art Lounge. This next one is on the 20th of March. It features the Don Sam Jones. And he's bringing a trio. I can't even call names because it's super secret.
Okay.
But I invite you to come down. Come down, Virgin. Come down.
Nice, man.
Come down. And this is what we do, in addition to other things. So that is it. There's so much we could have spoken about, because again, as I said, a lot of the people you mentioned, especially in this one, we've seen them grow and come up. We worked with Sultan as a 15, 16-year-old in 2017, that sort of thing. We knew Sam very early, actually. We're talking in 2016, so these are 15, 16, 14-year-old teenagers coming into the thing, and to see them grow. You're on the same thing, and what I will say is that when they're on a moment's notice, their game is raised to another level, and they have to improvise. I'm gonna stop there because we could go on and on, but we have to leave. George, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're both very welcome. Thank you for having me on the show.
We were happy that we could do the 2 hours and
Nice.
play some good music and have some really good conversations. I always say there is scope for a part 2, because there's so many things that we needed to and could talk about.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any Mrs Wedderburn, any last words?
No, just goodbye and good night. And see you next month, second Monday of the month, when we'll be back with another guest. And thank you for tuning in.
I can't get such a loud signal and not heeded. Guys, take care. This is Mr and Mrs Wedderburn Presents, and we're out.
Nice. Yes, we didn't have a chance to play that last one, but that's okay.